Hey friends, I'm Christy and you're listening to Rock the Damn Boat. If you've ever bitten your tongue to keep the peace or said yes when every part of you wanted to say no, this one's for you. We're diving into the messy, real stuff that people pleasers like me have spent years avoiding. It's time to have the hard conversations, shake things up, and learn to stand tall, even when it makes waves. We are here today to have what I expect to be a fascinating conversation. And if you listen to my interview with Kelsey Powell, Kelsey is actually who put me in touch with my guest today. And I knew that based on conversations that Kelsey and I have, that this guest was going to be equally as magical. So I am here with Angela Morgan. She owns several businesses north of here, mainly in Mineral Wells, Texas, which is a cool other little town. If you've explored around Hico, you'd be wise to go explore Mineral Wells. And Angela's got some really unique business offerings, and her and I we barely know each other. So
yeah, we're just meeting. We're definitely just meeting.
We met today, but already feel like we've had this energetic connection. I know we have a lot of things in common, and that's what we're going to talk about today, just exploring your authentic self. So I'm going to turn it over to Angela and let her tell you about
Thank you so much, Christy, first of all, for having me. I was so excited whenever you called, and I don't know why. There was a draw there. I was like, okay, yes, please. I will happily come meet. So thank you for having me. Like I said, when we were talking, I definitely feel that your energy, not just you, but energy draws you where you're meant to be. So thank you again. With owning the Baker Hotel Ghost Walk, I started that in 2012. Well, my permits passed in 2012, and that just opened the doors for other businesses. I spawned off from that, BOO-tique, and the Boo is BOO, ghostly, and Positive Press. And in those, meeting phenomenal women, mainly that, may have their own little stories and their own nuances of how their own daily life is, whether it's spiritual or super religious or not, whatever it may be. You definitely find the path of who you're meant to be around, though, I believe. With the ghost tour, it's something magical each and every time.
Do you do those weekly or
monthly
or holiday-wise?
September starts every Saturday. And so it's September and October every single Saturday. And then the rest of the year, it's kind of just strategically placed, like around holidays. Thanksgiving is a huge Thanksgiving walk, and the spring break walks. Those are huge for out-of-towners and things like that. So traveling from other states and getting to meet people, that part makes it fun. You wouldn't think that a ghost tour is something that families look up and travel across state lines to do, but it is huge. Any history buffs, you don't necessarily have to believe in ghosts to enjoy some good history or ghost stories or whatever it may be. So it's neat getting to see other like-minded, or even if they're not, where they're like, I don't even believe in ghosts. That's okay. You don't have to.
So from reading a little bit about it, some people kind of get dragged into it by a family member or whatever that might be, and then they're pleasantly surprised.
Well, that usually ends up being the person that has something happen to them. Their hair may get pulled, or they get poked, or they feel like they got scratched, or they hear something in their ear and just swear that somebody put them up to it. Or
Wow. So tell us a little about the Baker Hotel. I've seen it, and my husband is fascinated with the building. And so your tour is mainly centered around that structure?
It is. Whenever you think of Mineral Wells, if you are not from there, you just think, oh, okay, it's another Texas historic town. But the average person happens upon Mineral Wells because they found the Baker Hotel first.
Okay.
So to me, that's unique in itself. Not every town has something as historic looking and as magnificent. And if you just drive just down the main street, it's a one-way, so you have to pass right there. And even coming into town from the outskirts, you see it, and it kind of just pulls you in. just draws you there, and you don't really know why. You just kind of think, oh, well, let's go by and tour that old building, you know. So that is neat in itself. My family is from there. I grew up just a few miles outside of there in a little bitty town called Cool, Texas. And so my family is also one of the original founders, original settlers of Mineral Wells. So I have deep roots from there, and both grandparents' families are from there. So anyways, whenever you go to the Baker, if you didn't know, and of course you quickly can Google or whatever, image search. And now everybody wants to talk about it being haunted. Yes, it's haunted. However, there's definitely other areas, other landmarks around there, even more haunted. It's just that it has such a good vibe, such a good happy energy that even someone that is not into that side of their personality, they don't know what that is that makes them want to get out and want to walk around. But it's that happy, feel good feeling that just kind of draws you in there.
Well, the architecture is magnificent, and I'll put some photos if somebody is watching the video. But it is a towering building. It's
183 feet. 183 feet tall.
183 feet tall, and kind of, I don't remember exactly when it's built. You probably know that, but there's some Art Deco or that type of architecture that's just, when you think about when it was built and where it is virtually in the middle of nowhere, just that it's this giant towering structure. It's a draw for sure.
Yes. So it opened its doors November 22nd of 1929. Okay. But then it closed in 1972. I'm dating myself, but in 1996, our senior class got to have our senior prom there.
Oh, wow.
Yes. It was already condemned. The fire chief was like, yeah, y'all be okay. Just don't go above the second floor. Well, you can imagine how, here there was tuxedos and ball gown kids all the way at the very top.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything ghostly happening like during senior prom. It was spooky, but it was, again, that feel of like, I don't really know what I'm searching for. But it's just a vibe that is unmistakable. I have hundreds of messages from over the years, thousands probably at this point, being 13 years, of complete strangers that will, usually the first sentence starts out, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I think about this building and I haven't been back there for 2 years, or I've only been there one time. Our family was passing through going to PK Lake, and I keep dreaming about this building, or I think about it. And, you know, who knows about past life regression? Maybe you were somebody back in the day, or maybe something of your heritage now is pulling you that way, or, you know, we don't know. The mind
That's
is curious.
True. I just had this flash, and of course it's on the horror side of things, but when you think about The Shining, and at the end when he's seeing those photos and seeing that past, like that connection to the past. So you're right, you never know what, and even if it's generational and you had a great grandfather who had visited or something, that's
I have family members that married there. I mean, obviously, way years before I was even born. And whenever I started the research to host my ghost tour, some of my very elderly family members were some of the first ones that I interviewed. I didn't want to be like one of those history tours you go on where somebody's walking, reading out of a laptop or a spiral. You know, I wanted to do my own interviews, talk hand to hand, and hear their and see it through their eyes. And that I think, in my opinion, is probably the best decision I could have made. I don't have an employee to do it. Nobody's going to tell the story the way I am, because I can still hear not only just my ancestors, but the people that maybe some of them have passed now at this point, but they were the original ones I interviewed from years ago, and how they detailed, you know, just working there or being a kid there. Because if you was a full-time employee, your kids could be there. So yeah.
Well, I love that because it brings in that authenticity that I know will be a a theme that's woven throughout our conversation today.
For sure.
And so for you to choose that as your business model, so to speak, and get those stories.
Yeah, everybody always thinks, oh, it's the Baker Hotel Ghost Walk, so I get to go inside. No, the whole ghost tour is centered around things here in the city. It's 10 blocks long, takes about an hour, but it's all stories of things that either bridged out from the Baker Hotel. You know, you could take the healing baths there, or there was a speakeasy down the street. There, you know, so many different little things. So.
Yeah. When my parents and I were talking about it, because my husband and I took a little day trip, and we had lunch at the Crazy Water Hotel and kind of walked around, because again, my husband is fascinated with the Baker Hotel. We'll take your tour next time we're in town. But my parents were saying that my grandparents ended up in Wizard Wells for a while for the same reason, that healing water. And we have rheumatism, you know, now you call rheumatoid arthritis that ran in our family. And so that was kind of something that they looked for, that healing water. And so there's something to that, even if you may or may not believe in otherworldly things. There's certainly a lot of people who believed in the
absolutely. You know, back then, women that sewed all the time and then had to wash clothes by hand and things. You know, you get just a pain or whatever, you can pop a Tylenol or something now. Back then, imagine having to do all of that plus and then some. And so the first time Judge Lynch's wife had boiled the water, basically she was boiling the water because she realized it got the nasty kind of gross egg rotten smell out of the water. And then she realized that her years of sewing fingers and her rheumatoid arthritis and her knuckles had opened up. And the only change she had was from drinking the water.
Yeah. So you've been doing the ghost tours. Now, how long has the BOO-tique been in business?
BOO. Funny enough, my oldest son is the one who named that too. Not even me. So I started the Baker Hotel Ghost Walk September 8th of 2012. I'm a big believer in numbers. So I try to start all my businesses on the 8th day of the month.
Okay.
Yep. 8, if you did not know, is the only number that continues 1 through 9. It's the only one. So think of like the infinity sign. You want that longevity, that prosperity, that good luck, good energy just to continue on. So for me, it's a little bit odd. Anyways, so I started that. And then in 2019, I started BOO-tique. And I opened up probably half a block from the Baker Hotel and was open there until COVID hit. And then whenever COVID hit, I moved it home, and instead of being just a walk-in retail, I went to ship only and mainly live sales. And so from that spawned off Positive Press for women only, and kind of like a mentorship, like coaching every day, just the good vibe, the good stuff that is in life, that sometimes it's easy to wake up and you may not feel like you wanted that day, but when you think about your why, or, you know, it kind of gives you the bravery, I guess, and the courage to remember your why and to take that foot forward. There's nobody is going to be more powerful in your life than you, in your own brain set. And I think sometimes as women, we may hand a man the key. We may hand other women the key to what dictates like our happiness. And as long as you know that you have the power, you can set your mind. I mean, anything's possible.
Yes.
You know. So
you are speaking to me right now. You know, Angela knows I'm going through a big transition in my own business and my life, and trying to lean on those messages of bravery and courage, and I've kind of been having one of those weeks where it is tough to remember and to trust, and that's where I
having
think that
faith and knowing that, you know, you could be going through your own little awakening right now, and it feels new to you, which is scary, and the unknown is definitely scary. What sign are you?
I'm a Gemini.
Oh, honey, no wonder. So, you know, an air sign think about air. Air is up and down, it's rolling all around. So your mind, your fleeting thoughts sometimes will be like that. So whenever your air is taking you up, because you're an air sign, everything's going to look good. But in the quick of a breeze, as it goes down, you can spiral.
Oh, yes.
That's a hard thought, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
So,
what's so interesting, around this time of year, I almost always draw the rabbit card out of an animal deck that I have. And the rabbit in this deck represents running around kind of like Chicken Little, where a rabbit's running around going, the eagle's going to eat me, the eagle's going to eat me. And finally it does, because the rabbit like can't take action. They're prey animals and they're kind of caught. And my friend next door, Tessa, drew the rabbit in her deck, had a totally different meaning about co-creating and all of these things that was much more positive. But what you were saying about that spiral kind of makes me think about something about this time of year for me brings back that energy of just, I don't know, a little helpless, a little lost. But I know 2026
is coming. First of all, don't count yourself out. I mean, we're on a 9-year. So if you aren't hip to that, or, you don't understand that part of numerology, 9 years is an end of an era. So whatever has been going on karmically in your life, or whatever you have been thinking you want to make that new next step, you're closing the doors right now. And not just you. You may not even realize or think, you could go every Sunday and pray for what you want in your future, but it doesn't matter. It's whatever is meant for us is going to be, because we're stepping into the new. Right? Yes. We're moving into a 1 year, which seems selfish, especially as women. I have 4 children. Are you ready? Are you ready for these ages? You're going to really think I'm crazy. You're going to be like, girl, that's a whole other episode. Okay, so my children are, first of all, they're all 4 different element signs.
Okay.
I have my fire, my air, my earth, and my water. So all 4 of them, they all come to me at my life whenever I definitely needed them, for a fact. But with moving into the 1 year as a mom, we tend to think to ourselves, oh, I won't buy myself that. Or, oh, my kid needs this. Or, oh, my husband needs new tires. I won't spend this money. Honey. We are moving into the year where it's meant for us, because how you lay your foundation right now is going to evolve your next 10 years that you run. And that's, if anything I could leave today with you, know that you are moving into the year where you have to be happy with you. You have to be happy for you, and you can't pour from you and continue to do that, whether it's into a relationship, another business, a child, a family member, a toxic friendship, anything like that, and expect anything good to come back out of it. So build this year. If you have to start right now with manifesting and praying and thinking to yourself what you want in your life, you can do it, because again, your mind is the what you think you can achieve.
And to help our listeners understand, it's the 2025, right?
Yes,
that adds up to 9, which is why 2025 is
it's an end of an era.
9 number, and then we're going to move into 2026, which
I have a lot of clients that say a professional judge all of a sudden has just changed her mind and is like, I'm going to open up a yoga studio. Or someone who is over voting was like, I'm going to be a florist. Just completely flip-flops. Both great jobs and what brings you happiness or whatever, but being done and moving out with what that is. And I'm no different. This past year, I'm like, I think I'm done with the boutique. I think I'm going to be done. And then something in me is like, nope, I'm not done, because I love the women. I love the clients. I love the stories. I love seeing them whenever they come pick up packages. I will never retire from my ghost walk. I will have an oxygen tank, and somebody can be pushing me in a wheelchair.
You'll be a ghost on the ghost walk.
Absolutely, it is my baby. I birthed 4 kids, but that is my baby, because nobody else helped me with that, and nobody does the tours, just me. So it's definitely my baby. I will always do it.
How did that idea come to life?
So my older children, by the way, they're 27, 26, 10, and 8.
Yes, you forgot to tell us that.
I'm sorry.
My goodness, yeah.
I was
awful.
sorry.
To ask.
Yeah, so
that's
they're definitely, they're 19 years from my oldest to my youngest. We had been to a ghost tour out in Jefferson, Texas. Jefferson, Texas, the tour is owned by Jody. Phenomenal. We had just had such a good time. It was just one of those feel-good little vacation trips before we kicked back off like school or something. And my oldest son was like, Mom, you really should do that. And I said, I cannot do that. Now, we've always been open to spirit. Of my 4 kids, 2 can hear or see spirit. It's kind of taboo. Not everybody talks about that. But for me, in my truth, I didn't ever want my kids to feel odd or a standout. So I used to, years ago, with my oldest, would be like, well, just talk to Mom about that. You don't have to tell anybody else that, you know, because especially in a small town, Texas, very conservative. I went to school. I started school in Millsap in 83 and graduated from the same school in 1996. So all 13 years of my school was at one town, and my children no different. So, you know, everybody knows everybody. Maybe behind closed doors, they laughed about the ghostly woman that believed in ghosts. I don't know. Nobody laughs about it to my face. But so I would tell my oldest, like, just talk about it to me. Well, he was the one that was like, you've always said, just talk about ghosts to me. But like, would you be embarrassed? I wouldn't be embarrassed of you. And whenever he said that, I was like, okay, I can do it. Because again, as a mom, you would do anything for your kids. And so it was almost like he kind of gave me that courage. And so we just talked about it. You know, it's a good little road trip coming back from East Texas, and we just talked about it the whole way. So I had no clue. I worked for a large worldwide pharmaceutical company, very professional business. A ghost tour, like what, you know? So that Monday I went to work, you know, I had some close friends and kind of talked with them, and they were like, a ghost tour? Oh, well, that's a fun hobby. And I remember saying like, well, not a hobby like as in side painting or something. Like, if I'm going to do it, I'm not a half-asser. I mean, we're going to do this dang thing. And so they kind of was like, I don't know if I would tell anybody. Can you do it anonymous? And I just remember thinking, and this was my friends, like, what? You know, and then something in me, just that little fire started burning, and I called the city. Mr. Howerton was the city manager then, and his secretary put me through to him. And I remember him being like, well, how many people you think could even come to this ghost tour? Like, what are we talking? Standing on the steps of the baker and telling a ghost story? Like, on Halloween? I think that'll be okay. And I said, no. Like, I'm thinking, you know, and I remember saying to him, I would love it if 40 people would show up. Once the city of Mineral Wells passed my permit, my very first ghost walk had 252 people.
Wow. Wow.
Very first ghost walk. And since then, my largest one has been over 600.
Oh my gosh.
At
Is that
one
like
time.
Halloween or just?
No.
Wow.
Believe it or not, it was a July day in hot Texas.
Oh my goodness.
Had been over 100 degrees that day. That amount of people, first of all, it takes up the entire city block, like street. I am on a loudspeaker, and I'm a loud person anyways, but it was so many people, and it was a Friday the 13th.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe the draw was that. I don't know. But the average tour, like in October, I'm going to say on the low side is 200, but 350 around there. You know, so
incredible.
And I think a little of it stems from, again, you don't have to believe in ghosts, but if you're a family and you believe in a good time, get out, walk, have some fun, you know, experience some exercise, you know. And the crazy thing is, whenever people will call me, like if they think they have to book a reservation, they'll say, oh, well, I've got little children. Girl, I can keep a kid's communication and their eyes and even the worst of kid never say a word, because a good tale,
Right. Well, and they don't have all the preconceived notions we do as adults about real or not real or anything. They're just open to all the mystery of it.
Sure. Some of it's folklore. I mean, I wasn't alive in 1929, but but it is. You're absolutely and two, whenever you're a kid, not only the preconceived, you don't have that taboo in the back of your mind of what an adult may feel. It's interesting because, especially being conservative Texas, some people will say, "Oh, well, I'm a big Baptist," and I'm like, "Does Baptist not go to history tours?" I mean, I grew up very Southern Baptist, and another unique thing is I do tours year round. And I have done tours for all of the largest churches here in Texas for their youth groups.
Yeah.
So they may not just boastfully advertise it on their Sunday morning meetings that they're, but it's definitely not something that is going to harm your peace with your God and your Maker, and I think that that's as we continue on, especially with social media. It's easy for somebody to be like, well, I don't let my kids trick or treat because it is the devil's work. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I'm not judgy-wudgy like you, but it's okay. And two, even still, and it's not just my ghost walk. They're all over Texas. They're fun and it's history. So
yeah. Well, that's funny. So many parallels with that and yoga, and I know we've talked about in our brief time of chatting back and forth just that our exploration of spirituality is different than how we were raised. I think yoga has this taboo around because it's entrenched in Eastern religions. So it is not a religion, it's a philosophy, but it was started with people who practiced Hinduism and Jainism and other religions that aren't Christian. And so I've had people ask, can I do yoga and be a Christian? Is yoga anti-Christian? And it's not.
I hate you.
I'm sure that originally people were very entrenched in that faith and that movement, but the movement actually came later. It was originally a philosophy in scriptures, in textbooks, I should say, texts that were written down, taught you how to be at peace with yourself and seek a relationship with a higher being.
Sure.
And so I find that relief in my own spirituality. And then the movement came later, and then it modernized in the 20s when it came to the States. And it was interesting because men in India started using it for wrestling and to get more fit for wrestling. And so when they brought it over to the States, it became called modern yoga, is all about the movement.
Yeah.
But I was taught by someone who really wanted to look at the roots and kind of like you're talking about the history, look at the history and find out all of that. So I absolutely believe in God.
Yeah, absolutely.
My faith doesn't look like it did growing up, but
but guess what? We don't want to look like anything like we did growing up because that's part of growth.
Yes.
That's part of evolving. I remember one day saying to my mom, why haven't I been baptized like all my friends? And it was coming from a place of like our good little girlfriend group. I was probably 12, 13 years old, and several of them had been baptized. And I asked my mother, and she said to me, which I think is probably one of the most freeing, she said, that's not for me to decide.
Wow.
And my mom, she had actually been married before my father, and she was married to a Catholic man. And so she saw very much both sides of, Catholic religion and Baptist religion. And while my mom was definitely more on the spiritual side, I mean, she might cuss you out on a Sunday walking into the church too. But at the same time, whenever she said to me, that's not for me to decide, I really think that was one of the first times as a child I remember thinking, whoa, I don't have to do what my mom is saying. Like she's giving me the door of, well, whatever I feel, that doesn't necessarily have to be what you feel. Yes. And I remember feeling very freed with my mother saying that. And my mom was definitely not one that was overly religious. I mean, whatsoever. But whenever it was almost like she gave me the keys to think for myself.
That's amazing.
It really,
a lot of children don't get that freedom at all. And today I consider self-expression to be one of my core values. And I think part of it's because, and I love my mom, and we have a great relationship, but I dressed kind of funky, and I felt like I always got a little bit of,
but that little bit of independence,
and so I think that at the time she didn't understand, and my parents are operating off of the values they were given. And we've all come a long way. My parents attend Unity Church now instead of Methodist, because they have found a different way of having faith in a different type of environment, and they thrive there. And so I think that we've all, we loved my grandmother, Polly, and Polly was my great grandfathers both started churches. So from either side of my family, you have this very, very
staunch.
And so they started churches that came down, and so
just the pride alone of starting a church, and starting anything, but a church where somebody else comes to you with their core values and puts their faith in you and trusts in you and believes in you. That alone, that energy behind that does not stop just because that man passes or that woman passes, or you quit going to that church. That continues on with you for a fact.
I think we've each generation has worked to find that freedom. It's unfortunate that we didn't have that growing up, but I think it just makes it that much more special when you circle back to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And for me, it resulted, I think, in a lot of, I stopped drinking 7.5 years ago, and I drank for a long time because I just wasn't being my authentic self. And now that I am, and I found I was going to meetings at first, and they talk about the God of your understanding, and it's like, oh wait, what do you mean I can understand God the way I want to? And so it's turned into a beautiful relationship that I have with God.
It's very
that looks nothing like.
It's very freeing. It's funny you say that a while ago, because I have been asked, well, do you believe in God? And I'm like, well, what makes you think that I don't? Because I tell a ghost story, you know? So I think that it's important, just as women, but as humans, to know that the way you believe doesn't have to be the same way I believe. And at the end of the day, if you're a good human, I mean, isn't that what any heaven is going to want?
We're talking about kind of evolving your faith and your transformation, and when you walked in, you brought me a gift.
I did.
And people who are watching can see that I grabbed this beaded set that has blue flowers on white, like ceramic. And Polly, my grandmother, this looks like her dishes. And her dishes were a pattern that was white and blue. And she's so special to me, and I still sometimes have that. I know it's not a true belief that maybe she wouldn't approve of yoga and all the things that I'm doing that are so different, but this to me is a sign that she does approve of.
So after you invited me and we chatted a couple of times back and forth on text, I knew that I wanted to. I mean, obviously, I'm a Capricorn. We're gift givers, so I knew that I wanted to gift you with something. I don't know you. And so in my mind, I just kind of thought to myself, I wonder what she would want. And I do know for a fact that somebody come through in my head and was like, oh, this is it. And so whenever I walked in, I know, as weird as it sounds for some complete stranger to say, I don't really know who this was, but somebody wanted you to have this. And I'm so glad that it hit home, that you realize who not only loves you. I mean, I may have been the gift giver, but it was definitely a gift from Spirit.
I wrote my memoir back in 2021, and it was going to be a story about me and Polly. I wanted to write her story, more like a biography. And I just thought, not only is it going to be harder to get all the research, but just I wasn't sure I could do it justice, and so, honestly. And once I got sober, I started it because then it was our story and my desire to live like her. She never drank, and she was just so generous of spirit. And I wanted to model that. And so when I stopped drinking, it was in her memory and her honor, yes. And so I think that, she's shining down.
That's a beautiful story. I'm excited for you, and it makes my little heart happy to think that. I mean, obviously, I want you to have it and like it, but to feel that we're watched or seen or felt from our loved ones, guardian angels, or whoever was special to us that we lost, because we've all lost somebody that's special.
Yes. People attach that to cardinals. Sometimes they see cardinals and they feel that connection. And I think not that we need the validation in any way, but when something like this happens, it affirms for you that
absolutely
it's okay to use this gift and to talk to people about it, because it means
I think the best way to describe that, some Christians will call it a discernment, and that's okay. I think that we all have guardian angels, and we all have someone that loved us, and that whether it's a Polly or a whoever, whenever they pass and they move on to their heavens, and the way I see it and the way I feel and the way I live my life is their energy doesn't just stop, it just transfers. And I think it's something as simple as whenever you hop in your car and you're trying to put on your seatbelt and it just won't freaking click, and you don't understand why, and then it finally just does, and you're like, ah, or you get that flat tire that sets you back an hour or whatever, and then narrowly down the road you miss getting T-boned by a semi, or anything catastrophic. I think spirit, no, I believe, not think, I believe, hands down, that spirit interacts in our life every single day. Yes. For the good, for the bad. If it's in your path, it's meant for you. I do live that very heavily in my life. I live it with my children. I'm definitely not somebody that, I don't care if someone makes fun of me. I ain't got friends. I mean, so I don't care if I pick up another friend because they think that, but at the same time, I'm also not judging. So because I did grow up Baptist, and while I think that that's important to, I guess, live by those ways for that time being, I think that it's also wise to think that you could evolve. We all have gut instincts.
Yes.
And I think that it's very important, regardless of what your religion is, to follow your own gut instincts and listen to that inner voice, whether it is, your grandma Polly sending you a necklace from a stranger or whatever, because really at the end of the day, who cares what your religion is if you're not listening to your own inner voice?
Yes. Yes, and I want to expand on this idea of, synchronicity is, I notice synchronicities in my life, and it's like you were talking about, something could happen and it has a chain reaction to something further down. And I just want to encourage anyone who is feeling that way or noticing those signs that it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the more apparent those things become.
Absolutely.
And so I think that it's easy for our logical brain to ignore it or shut it off or say, oh, that was a coincidence. Mm-hmm. But if you can open...
I don't believe in coincidences at all. At all.
Yeah, so I think that as you can strengthen that muscle.
Sure.
And you can strengthen that intuition.
The blonde ghost hunter that hunts ghosts, but I'm scared of frogs, but I do not believe in coincidences. I do think that, there's predestined lines that we're meant to be on. I think that you can stray from your path. And I do think that something as simple as energy, whether it's our loved ones, it's our own gut instincts, you just know that something's not right. What is it, this happiness that I'm trying to search for? Or what, and it's not even about wanting more as in like monetary.
Yes. I just left, and the whole reason this podcast exists is because I left a 6-figure job as a sales director, corporate after 30 years, I walked away because I believe that there's a way that I'm meant to help people. And whether it's this podcast or coaching or retreats, I have no idea. So I'm
that's
going to practice the faith and the trust right now, even though my 2025, all fallen away. But I just believe that there's something different that's got to happen. And so, that's my faith and my trust in this path, because I'm the same way. I've gotten to where it's not always easy, but I've gotten to where I stop fighting those signs.
Sure.
And so it's easy.
And whenever you stop fighting those signs, it's crazy. The more signs, it's like you move one book and the whole books from the shelf all kind of fall into place. And you're like, oh, well, that's all it took, I'm excited for you.
Well, thank you.
It's coming from somebody where, again, that routine of knowing what your week is going to look like or whatever, because with being at the pharmaceutical company I was at, I knew it was 6 figures, best money I had ever made. And I had friends being like, are you going through a midlife crisis? What do you mean you're leaving here to start a ghost tour? Best decision I ever made. Best decision
that gives me some hope, for sure.
And whenever you do leave what you know as your right now, even though you're evolving right now into this next year with however your path is going to be, it may also put other people that is meant to cross your path, and then you may open up a business together, or or a new idea together, or find a retreat that you're just like, oh, this is it. So I'm excited for you, because everything you're talking about where you're at, that was me in 2012. To look anybody in the face and say I was leaving the worldwide pharmaceutical company that I work for. Great company, great business. I still have girlfriends that work there. They absolutely thought like I had a brain tumor or was past midlife crisis. Like, what are you thinking?
Yes.
And I'm not going to lie, whenever I finally closed that door, I think that day was my first day where I'm like, God, what are you doing? But that's okay, because you just put one foot in front of the other, and that's part of you believing. You can put anything in your mind and speak it into existence. If you walk that walk and talk that talk, you just are going to have to just know that you have your own power. People can say prayer or manifestation or this or that. Put whatever word into it you want to. I like to say I'm always going to bet on myself. And I will, because I know at the end of the day, nobody is going to have the power over me. Yes, things are meant for me, but I know I have the power to make this life the best it can be. Yes. So, and you're as positive as they come. So great things are meant for you.
Thank you. I remember how surreal it felt to say those words to my boss, because I love and respect her. And the beauty of that was she said, well, now we can be friends without that complication of being coworkers or, being a boss and an employee. So, so it's beautiful. All the people I've met in that world, and I'm closing the yoga studio, but all the people I've met here, the new people that the podcast is bringing into my life is incredible. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's where you're meant to be. Yeah. It's where you're supposed to be in life.
So. Well, I love that. I have no idea what time it is, but I feel like our conversation
we're just talking where it's exactly 12.
All right. Well, yes, we've done great we're right where we need to be. I would love for you to tell people how they can find you, Angela, because everyone's going to be intrigued.
Okay, so the Baker Hotel Ghost Walk is in Mineral Wells. My tours are year-round. After Halloween, obviously, it's kind of just strategically placed around certain holidays and spring break and Easter and Valentine's. That's a huge time. And then the BOO-tique is on Facebook. I do live sales all the time, and my other is Positive Press, and then I obviously am a medium and do spirit readings and things. So.
Excellent. Yep. All right. Well, I have enjoyed this conversation.
It is so fun.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. So with that, we'll shut things down and say goodbye. And I look forward to talking to all of you and to Angela again soon.
Thanks for watching. Thank you.
Oh, I love that.
It was so fun.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow, and 5-star reviews go a long way to supporting the show. Thanks for listening.